back for Fireside Chats with Grandma week number 3. And starting out with last week, we learned about Grandma meeting Grandpa for the first time. But before that time, Grandma did meet some guys and hung out with some friends. So Grandma's going to give us a little dating advice.
Okay, here goes. You probably won't listen, but back then, it was not like today. You chose your friends a lot with how your family thought about them, usually, or what your family would think about them if you brought them home. So if a boy asked me out and I accepted, he always came to the house and knocked on the door and introduced himself to my father and came in. It was all very nice. And then he would take me out. Of course, he knew he had to have me in at a certain time. And we would go out, but mainly I didn't date until I was really in my senior year, I think, of high school, because we just more or less were in like gangs of people. You played with the neighbor kids and the neighbor boys, and you were just always in a group of people having fun. And so I didn't really start single dating until I was in senior high school. And of course I went to 3 different high schools, which made it also difficult to get to know people right away. And so when I did start dating singly, I was pretty careful who I picked. You could tell which boy was going to be a little wild, usually, and I wouldn't even look toward them. So mainly in high school, there were 6 of us girls that were together the last 2 years in my senior high school in what they called the California Club. So we more or less got together and were always together doing things and with different boys, but they were with us too. So it was just sort of a group of kids. And if we did date or go out, it wasn't any big thing like out to dinner or anything. It was maybe go to a fair or something, or go down to Venice and ride the, what do they call it?
Roller coaster.
Roller coaster, or the merry-go-round, something like that. And really, it was rare that anybody had a car. If you went, you'd go in the street car. No, Peter didn't know what a streetcar is. It was a train, but it was only one compartment of the train. They weren't attached until later. There was just one with seats in it and big windows, and we called it the streetcar. There were no buses or things like that. So the dating was mainly, they'd come over to your house and you'd make taffy, cold taffy, or we'd get around the piano, and one boy was a real good musician, and we'd sing songs and harmonize, or we'd play games, and of course some of them wanted to play spin the bottle, and that's, I guess, if he points towards you and it's somebody else's turn, you get to go in the closet, and if the boy is lucky, he might get a kiss. But I'd go in the closet with the boy, and I wasn't about to give any boy a kiss. That was about it. But that was the way the dating was when I was in school. And it was just more fun, friends. It was none of this meet them on the first date and get real personal by the end of the evening, like they do today, which I think is much better. You should get to know somebody before you get real intimate.
And taking us back to the wartime stories, I believe Grandpa had some pretty intense wartime experiences and even met one of our presidents, JFK. That's a pretty cool story. Tell us a little bit about Grandpa's PT boat times.
Well, when he got over there, Kennedy, I think, was already over there in a squadron. Dad come over and joined, and I think his first PT boat was number 276, and he was the second officer. And they ran on their gas when they were going to where they were stationed. And they knew they were going to run out of gas, so they went and found this island nearby and went to it. And as they got close, they saw the natives coming out, and they got a little worried because they didn't know if they were friendly or not. But turned out they were, and the big boss happened to be, I think, either Australian or something like that. And he brought the natives out, and they were real happy to see him, and they wanted to, and the sailors, they all said, you know, do you have any fruit or anything? And, oh, yes, and they brought them fruit and different things. And meanwhile, they had called the base and told them they were out of gas, and so they said, stay right where you are, we'll bring it to you. And so they did, and so the skipper of the boat, I forget his name, decided to go ashore with the big guy in charge of the plantation on the island. And meantime, the commander came with some other PT boats bringing them gas. And he asked where the skipper was. And Stan said, well, he's ashore with so-and-so. And he told him, go get him! So Stan said, yes, sir. And he pointed a couple of the seamen to go get him, gave them guns, and they went off and got the skipper and brought him out. And therefore, they filled up, and then they followed the commander back to where their first base was, which happened to be where Kennedy was also stationed, and the squadron next to him. So he said he was a fairly nice guy. And then, of course, when they were always, what did they call it? They were looking for the Japanese and protecting people at night on the PT boats. And the planes would fly in the daytime to protect the camps. So, of course, Kennedy got next to a big Japanese battleship, a little close, got a little worried, and instead of putting his motor way down to the lowest part, which you wouldn't hear, turned his motor off. Well, there he was with no motor, and everybody knows the story. Eventually he got away and was shot out, I think, and got to this island, and how he finally got back. But his second in command was a big, I think Minnesota, I'm not sure. And you all heard the story of how he swam and did these things. And when they got back, Stan looked up at the other guy and he said, well, how come? What happened? And he looked at Stan and he poked him in the chest and he said, I also swim. So that made Stan think, I think he was the one that was doing the swimming. So when Stan's, but everybody liked Kennedy. He was a nice guy. And when Stan went back to Washington once, he dropped by the office, and of course Kennedy wasn't there, so he just left a note saying hi, and got a note back, which we had somewhere, it might be in Dad's things, saying, sorry I missed you, Stan. And that was it. So that's then on the PT boat, as Stan finally became skipper of a boat, everybody had to stand watch. So one night he was checking on them, and he found this young gunner's mate asleep. And he looked at him, and he looked at him twice, and he said, how old are you? And the kid said, I'm 15. What are you doing here? Didn't you see your grandpa saying that? He said, well, my folks signed for me. He says, okay, so stay awake. But he said he never put him on that late duty again because he knew he was just a teenager. He couldn't stay awake. But that was your dad. He was always a father, even though he was pretty gruff at times.
speaking of Grandpa being a dad, we want to hear some stories about those kids. And I believe there's one where a cow may have gotten loose.
Yeah. Well, before we moved up here, we had been given some little yearlings to raise and down in Rolling Hills. And when they got bigger, well, they decided to bring them up here because they put the fences in and let them wander around and eat. And so we came up when Sally was in college at Cal Poly, and she had a lot of friends, and they'd come out to the ranch and visit us in the trailer park that we'd come up and stay in when we'd come for the weekend. And Stan and Bruce had decided this one cow was ready to cut up and divide up and get frozen. Another story, we had done this before, and the kids were littler, and we had some roast beef one night. One of the kids, I don't know which one, said, "Is this Sancho?" And Dad said, "No, this is hamburger." Anyhow, they decided to kill it. So Bruce was going to get the honor of killing this big steer. And so as they went out to do it, Bruce got the rifle and shot it. But I don't know what happened, whether his eye clicked or what. And if you don't hit a cow right in the middle of the forehead, that's it. He didn't quite. And boom, the cow just ran. And Dad saw, oh my God. He said, "Don't let him get down the canyon." So everybody started chasing. Sally had friends from college. Mark was there. Bruce was there. And I was hanging on the fence watching them. They were all running after this big cow up and down Dale. And they came around in front of me again, and the cow was still way ahead of them. And Sally said, "Dad, Mark's tired." "Keep running," said Dad. And they all kept running, and he yelled back at me, "Go get Bill Pierce's such and such gun." And so I was just laughing so hard I could hardly stand it. So I went over and got his gun. But by the time I got back, they had chased the cow down, and Bruce had shot him. And Dad and Bruce were so mad at that cow, they wouldn't come in the little trailer park and have breakfast. But they both went out and pulled that cow up on the tree and got it all ready to go to the butcher's. We had our little adventures. I said, I bet the neighbors were just dying. Here the Smiths were over there chasing a cow on foot. But we didn't have any horses up here yet.
We're going to wrap it up for week number 3, and we'll be back for week 4. Fireside Chats with Grandma will continue.
I'll get by as long as I have you. There may be rain and darkness too. I won't complain, I'll see it through.